Hey everybody, this is Shane R. Monroe, and welcome. I'm going to give you just sort of a quick overview of this interesting little device. This is the Syba 2-bay HDD, or hard disk drive enclosure. It's USB 3.0, and this is an interesting little device, and you're probably wondering, why would I bother to talk about this? It looks like everything else. But this has some really interesting, unique features, and a lot of people may be able to use it. So first, what comes in the box is literally two cables. One is a standard USB power cord, which you probably have 100 of these things, nothing special here. And the other is a USB 3 cable. And this is the device itself. On the back, of course, the input from the USB power, the USB itself. Some toggle switches we're going to get to there in a minute, and a reset button, and there's a couple of LEDs here on the side to show disk activity, and the front has it lock and unlock. We're going to show you how that works in just a minute. So the purpose of this device is to insert two separate 2.5-inch drives. Now these could be hard drives, they could be SSD drives. Cool part is it doesn't matter, it works the same way for both. So just by hitting the unlock mechanism here, it doesn't really click or anything. That's kind of sucky. It's kind of floppy. These little guys just slide right off. And inside you will... Now, these don't come populated with drives. I had these drives laying around. So this came out of a laptop. Right? I always replace my laptops with SSDs, so I have a lot of these little guys sitting around. And if you flip it over, there's another one in here. My son's old laptop. So once you take these drives out of here, it's really nothing more than a piece of plastic with a little controller card in here. Like I said, you could do SSDs in here, but just for fun. So what I have here is a 250 gigabyte drive. Okay, and then here I have, I believe it's a 320. Is that right? Yes, I believe it is. It's hard to tell. Text is very, very small. Anyway, so two different size hard drives. That's an important thing to understand for what we're going to show you here in a minute. I shove that back on. We're going to just slide these cases right back on. And we're just going to, oops, got set to lock somehow. Oops, I think I just broke it. How about that? No, this pops back on. Okay. So, not a big deal. Just kind of crappy build on that part. Yeah, that just popped right out. Well, let's take a look. This was a $9 purchase. Yeah, so this is like fairly flimsy. Fortunately, the locking mechanism is not the important part of this system, right? There we go. Snapped right back into place. No big deal. Alright, so let's put this back in. Alright. Okay. Yeah. Great quality product here, right? That's so strange. Didn't have any problems putting it in the first time. Oh, maybe these are backwards. Not that it should matter, but hey, who knows, right? Oh, in fact, I know they are because this was on the bottom. So, lesson number 1, this matters. I appear to have locked myself in here. Now, let's make sure you put these on right. Food for thought. Alright, well, I snapped this back in. Probably didn't snap it right. Well, let's see if we can disconnect this thing again. There we go. Wow, interesting, very simplex design. So who knows, it's probably backwards now. Good part is, I don't think it really matters. One way locks it, one way doesn't. All right. So without further ado, see, look at that. You get troubleshooting and a review at the same time. All right, so bottom one with no logo here gets the barcode. There we go. All right. All right, so it was backwards now. Whatever. Oops, no, I was right before. Okay, good enough. All right, back to the review. Okay, so so essentially what you would have here, if you were to plug it in, would be, normally speaking, you would have a 2-drive enclosure. You'd plug it in and 2 drives would appear. In the case of this particular unit, and again why it's so interesting, is you can see here that there are some jumpers. I'm just going to use this knife I happen to have here. With both jumpers down, it's set for GBOD, which means just a bunch of drives. That's what JBOD means. So that means every drive in here shows up individually as its own drive. You can also do RAID 0, which is both up. All right, oops, in there. So both up. Now these 2 drives get merged into one single drive. That's right. So you end up with something like 460 gigabytes of drive space. Now they're not redundant. If one drive dies, you could potentially lose everything. However, there is a RAID 1, which is in this position. In RAID 1, both drives have to be the same size, or let's put it this way, they don't have to be the same size, but you only get the benefit of the smaller of the 2. So in this case, I had a 250 and a 320. I would end up with one 250 gigabyte drive if I were to plug this in right now as RAID 1. And then it would automatically back itself up to the other drive. So it'd be mirrored so that your data's safe. So if one of the drives goes out, you simply pull the bad one out, put a new one in, and you get your 250 gigabytes back. Now, obviously, with 2 drives, you're probably going to want to pull them together and probably use RAID 0, which is the way I've got it set up here. Now, you can't just pull these drives out and stick them in some other enclosure and read them that way. It doesn't work that way. So once they're in here and they're put together as a stripe or a mirror, then they're kind of joined at the hip. Unless, of course, you go with just a bunch of drives. In that case, both drives will show up on your system. You format each one of them. You got 2 drives. There's no redundancy. There's no special RAID. There's nothing. So that's really it. And due to the fact that you are powering 2 drives in here, I don't believe, I have not tested thoroughly, but my one attempt to use just the USB connector to act as power for both, no go. Just not enough juice coming through here. That's why you have the backup power. Right? So that's it. So you plug this guy in and you're good to go. Now, the cheap locking mechanism slider aside, easy piece of plastic electrical tape or something would solve that problem. But anyway, other than that, the reliability's been okay. I haven't had any problems with it. I tried it in both modes, both RAID modes, and is the GBOD. The manual that comes with it is a leaflet style, right? It tells you how to format a hard drive. And that is important to note that if you do change the modes, if you put in 2 existing drives, they'll just show up, no big deal. If you do change to, excuse me, if you do change into one of the RAID modes, you will have to hold down the reset button here for a few seconds, and then the system will reconfigure for that environment. And you may have to actually go into storage disk management inside of Windows, and yours will vary depending on which version of Windows you have, and you may have to go in there before it'll actually see the drive, and you'll have to create a simple volume. But it was nice of them to include instructions for those who don't know how to do that. So right now the price of this unit is $40 on Newegg. Again, I got it on Black Friday for $10 from Newegg, so I'm assuming if you look around you'll be able to find a decent price on it. And again, I said, aside from the crappy locking device, this is a handy device to have around. Put, 2 small 120 gigabyte SSD drives. You got a nice big fat drive for practically, half the price you'd pay for just the regular drive. So, and it's USB 3, so it's nice and fast. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed this look at the Syba RAID HDD Enclosure. Hope you